It's a Monday afternoon and time again for the marketplace. This is where we analyze the markets, talk about trends and developments, and of course how global activities are impacting on developments right here in our country. It's live on Joy News. My name is Emmanuel Apuaji Biafe, and coming up in this afternoon's edition, the International Monetary Fund's Director for Africa says favorable economic growth for the country from next year will be based on the country sticking to some critical fiscal policies. We'll bring you details of that from the IMF meetings in Washington, D.C. And the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, says recent revision of Ghana's outlook from being negative to being stable has been misconstrued by government. We get the impressions of an economist on this particular development who gives us clarity on that. And the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, CIMG, plans to include microfinance companies in subsequent editions of its award schemes. These are the headlines, of course, plus other stories, all coming your way within the space of about 25 minutes or so. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for staying and welcome back to Markets Place. Now, the IMF says government should go ahead with fiscal transparency and prudent expenditure measures to help sustain market confidence in the economy. Fiscal data released by government up to July this year showed weak revenue performance but contained spending. And the government has so far released some 7.5 billion Ghana cedis as against a revised target of 12.5 billion. But speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the annual IMF World Bank meetings, Director of the African Department, Abebe Selassie, was of the view that there is a need for everything to be done to sustain the confidence with these policy measures.
Program, we just completed the third review about 10 days or so ago. In terms of the data, the fiscal data was available, I think, through end July for us at this juncture. And through end July, what the data shows is very weak revenue performance. But spending being contained so that the fiscal deficit outcome was as programmed through then. We don't have any more data beyond, I think, end July or end August. And it's difficult to forecast what's going to be happening in the coming months. But what we are encouraging, and this is all discussed very clearly in the staff report, we do highlight kind of for this program to do what it's been designed to do and what has been achieved so far. It's going to be very important to avoid the election year spending increases that we have seen in the past. That's first, and then second, to ensure that is indeed the case, and sustain the confidence we're seeing in the market. I think it would be really important for the government to continue publishing data on the monthly basis as they have been in recent months. So we're encouraging the government to strongly do that.
And in another development, the favorable economic growth for the country from next year will be based on sticking to some critical conditions. That's according to the IMF's Director of African Affairs, Abebe Selassie, from the annual World Bank IMF meetings in Washington, D.C. George Biafe has more.
All the international rating agencies, Ghana's development partners, the World Bank and the IMF have forecasted a good economic outlook for the country going into 2017, 2018, 2019 and 2020. This is based on the fact that the country is going to get a lot of revenue from the Jubilee field, the Sankofa field, as well as the oil fields in the country. But for the IMF, even though it is optimistic about growth picking up from next year, this will be based on some conditions. Let's hear more of the African Director for the International Monetary Fund, Abebe Selassie, given the reasons why he believes that this good economic outlook is conditional.
Our forecasts are always going to be conditional. It's difficult to make an unconditional forecast because growth outcomes we think are related to policies. So we do see, even in the face of the significant adjustment that's been taking place, growth has been of the order of 4% in Ghana. So that's somewhat encouraging. And going forward, we see a little bit of pickup in growth to around 5.5–6%, I think, over the medium term. I don't think this is particularly optimistic given the the recent growth record. And we have seen the elevated macroeconomic imbalances of the last few years, very high interest rates that has manifested itself in having been one of the factors holding things back. So provided inflation can be brought down, real interest rates can be lowered, that should allow some recovery and growth. So, but again, this is all conditional on the government continuing the fiscal adjustment. You talked about the macro versus micro, that the macro improvements have not translated into improvements for people. I think this is a challenge, frankly, region-wide. A lot of questioning of what has all this growth done. I think the answer I can provide briefly is that it's going to take it takes many years of sustained growth for the tangible benefits of growth to be seen. And I think over the years we have seen that. I don't have the numbers for Ghana in particular at hand, but for the region as a whole, we've seen over the last 15-20 years, growth has been accompanied by a reduction in the poverty rate. But for me, kind of an even more important indicator that I follow are indicators like infant mortality, maternal mortality, and other human development indicators, which have all improved significantly. I would guess that if there hadn't been all this growth over the years, I doubt that we would have these human development outcomes improving as much as they have. So there is a link, but it doesn't always manifest itself linearly.
So whichever way you want to look at it, yes, the outlook for Ghana is very good. All the rating agencies, the development partners are saying this, but it will be based on some conditions. That is, if government is able to stick to that. So outlook is good for Ghana, but government must be committed to doing certain things. From the headquarters of the International Monetary Fund in Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., this is George Yaffe reporting for Joy Business.
Meanwhile, back here in Ghana, the vice presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, says the recent revision of Ghana's outlook from B negative to B negative stable, that is equivalent of B3, with the revision of the outlook from negative to stable, has been misconstrued by the ruling government. According to him, the revision does not imply Ghana's credit rating has been upgraded. Addressing party faithful during the party's manifesto launch at the Trade Fair Center here in Accra, he said Ghana's credit rating got downgraded to B negative under President Mahama, despite having oil revenue at his disposal, from B positive without oil under the NPP. He said nothing had changed per the recent rating except the revised outlook, adding international rating agencies like Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's now have basically the same credit rating for Ghana.
Economic mismanagement and corruption has resulted in Ghana turning to the IMF for a bailout. Fellow Ghanaians, Ghana's sovereign credit rating has been downgraded from B+ positive without oil. Ghana was being rated as B+ positive under the NPP. We've now come down with oil under the NDC and John Mahama to B- with a stable outlook in 2016. So we've gone from B+ to B- with oil. In fact, international credit ratings agencies like Moody's, Fitch, Standard & Poor's now have basically the same credit rating for Ghana. The recent revision of Ghana's outlook from B- negative to B- stable, that is the equivalent of B3 that Moody's has. The outlook was revised from negative to stable, has resulted in a misinterpretation by this NDC government and President Mahama that Ghana's credit rating has been upgraded. This is in fact not the case. Moody's did not upgrade Ghana. Ghana's rating under Moody's is still B-. It is only the outlook that has been revised, and that is not equivalent to a change in ratings or a ratings upgrade. The outlook is not equivalent to an upgrade in the ratings. Sometimes one wonders whether they don't read or they don't understand. So,
all right, so that was the vice presidential candidate of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, raising some controversy there over international ratings of Ghana. Now, to set the record straight and to get some more clarification on this, we've been joined on the line by an economist, Professor Godfred Dopping. He's also the head of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the market, please.
Yes, good afternoon, and good afternoon to our listeners.
All right, thank you very much. Now, has Ghana been downgraded or upgraded in the recent ratings by international rating agencies like Fitch and Moody's?
That's very difficult to answer. Necessarily, we haven't been downgraded. That is not to also suggest that we have significantly been upgraded, not at all. The base is the same, it's just the outlook that has been changed.
Yes, but then, so where do we belong? If it's not a downgrade and it's an upgrade, are we in the middle somewhere, or where do we actually belong to now?
Yeah, what it also means is that there is some admission for the rating that some progress has been made, for which reason the output that used to be negative has been revised to a more stable outlook. It's just like having a patient that they say that, oh, they are almost like off the west line to a more stable line, but it doesn't mean that you are not a patient.
Okay.
In that respect. So, and you can also see that some of the factors or reasons that the rating agencies cited for changing the outlook are necessarily reforms. But we know that reforms are not an end in themselves. They are a means to an end. And reforms take time to bear fruit. And they are more effective when they are bundled together or reinforce each other. So my understanding of their statement is that, yes, we have made certain interventions in the system that are good, but in themselves are not sufficient to actually improve our ratings significantly.
Okay, but there has been some improvement, a slight improvement, if you say that.
Of course, genuinely, we have made some progress. Also, as a result of the IMF program, and then the reforms that they are demanding. If you look at the public financial sector, public financial management reform, the Bank of Ghana Act, the specialized other bills about specialized financial institutions, the rest of them, these are necessary reforms. But they are not an end themselves. So what it means is that we need to work and then consolidate these and build on them and situate them within broader productivity enhancing reforms that will make them doable and quite beneficial.
So should we take it that, Prof, should we take it that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's admission that Ghana has not been upgraded was only some politics that he was doing, or economists must have something to say about that?
I think he wasn't entirely wrong, because it's not like the base has changed from, let's say, B minus to, let's say, B, or from B to B plus.
Okay.
I hope that is okay.
Yes.
So in that respect, you can't say that we have really been upgraded. But it is also true that it's an admission that some progress has been made.
Okay.
But it's not significant enough to actually change the base game.
All right. So how do the world, the international community see us now by way of these ratings?
Yes, what it means is that Ghana is taking certain steps to return to the path of, let's say, genuine growth and financial sovereignty. So these are steps, but to get to where we want to be, there are several steps that we have to take, and they must reinforce each other to make sure that we are actually there. So to some extent, it's good news, but it doesn't mean that we are out of the woods necessarily. It doesn't mean that turnaround has actually come. Okay, because growth is so fragile. If you look at many of the development partners accordingly are warning Ghana that even the growth that they have forecasted are conditional on we doing certain things. And one of the things we have to watch or keep an eye on is actually the 2016 election, that we don't go into physical slippages that could actually undermine the fundamentals of the economy.
All right, so finally, before you go, would you, making comparisons with the previous administration, Dr. Bawumia says the NDC has been downgraded to B negative from B positive, even without oil. The MPP was B positive, and now with oil, NDC is B negative. How do you rate these two, dimensions?
Yes, maybe the time periods are not the same, but genuinely, we could have done better. Because, in fact, if we want to know the true effect of some of these things, right, when we issued the first Euro bond in 2007,
yes,
we did so at 8.5%, I think. I think the rating at that time was B plus or so.
Okay.
Almost 10 years down the line, our rating is below that. And if you want to know the real effect, when we issued the first Euro bond, we did so at 8.5%. But when we have to retire that Euro bond, we are issuing another Euro bond at 9.25% to start an earlier Euro bond at 8.5%. You see the rollover rate.
Yes.
Yes,
so conditions differ.
The dimensions are not the same, but I want to believe that genuinely, where we have done well, let's recognize it. Where there is room for improvement, let's also appreciate it and then work hard. Because ultimately, we could have done better. And I've said the time and again that given the potential of Ghana, with oil coming on board, and other interventions in the system, we could actually have done better than we have done now. And the truth of the matter is that Ghana as a nation, if you look at our economy, we are going far below our potential. And let's put our collective hands on board and address this going forward.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Bokping, for your time and that explanation there. Professor Bokping, on the admission that Ghana has been downgraded and not upgraded. That admission was made by the vice presidential candidate of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. It's on the marketplace. We're taking a short break here. We'll be right back. The marketplace. Now, the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, CIMG, is planning to include microfinance companies in the subsequent editions of the award scheme. The president of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, Kojo Mata, revealed this over the weekend at the National Marketing Performance Awards, which saw the MD of Goyle, Patrick Akoli, emerge Marketing Man of the Year, and MD for Unilever, Meidi Akutu, Marketing Woman of the Year. Here's Ebenezer Sabute's report.
The Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana Awards gives recognition to deserving individuals and organizations that have excelled in the field of marketing to boost their operations. Theme for this year's event was Democracy and National Cohesion, Marketing a New Political Paradigm. According to the president of the CIMG, Kojo Mata, these awards are the modest contributions aimed at promoting the country and its hardworking individuals.
These awards are our modest contributions aimed at marketing Ghana and improving on the way we handle our professions and corporate entities operating in Ghana. By this, we are contributing to encouraging excellence at the professional and business levels, and also pushing forward the concept of Ghana First.
Managing Director of Goyle, Patrick Kwame Akoli, emerged the CIMG Marketing Man of the Year. He says this award is a success story for the Ghanaian petroleum sector. According to him, the company has moved up from a 13% market share to about 18% with a quadrupled turnover in its finances.
Started like a dream, but we believe in Ghana. We keep on appealing to Ghanaians that they need a strong marketing company downstream, to drive the deregulation. And I'm happy to tell you that Ghanaians have responded. The response has been so tremendous, and then we have also rewarded them with quality products. So I must say that it's just a drive to make sure that at least there's a one success story in the downstream industry of the petroleum industry. 3-4 years ago, Well was holding only 13% of the market share. As we speak now, we are almost at 18% of the retail market, and then our turnover has quadrupled, and we are company listed on the stock exchange.
Elizabeth Akutu, Managing Director of Unilever Ghana, was named Marketing Woman of the Year. She spoke to Joy Business after the presentation.
Really about navigating the organization during this time of economic challenges and difficulties, and turning around the performance of the organization between 2014 and 2015.
How have you been able to make it?
I think we put in place some very good strategies, did some great innovations, activations, cost savings, and we're able to correct our P&L.
What should we expect from you moving forward?
I think Unilever has been in Ghana for so many years and will continue to grow and prosper in the economy and contribute to industry in Ghana.
Joy FM's Drive Time, hosted by Kwame Sechiama, also known as Lexibil, received the Radio Program of the Year. Tony Senaya of Husman Shoes and Benis Dapa of Bamboo Bikes Initiative received special awards from the CIMG. Other award winners of the night include Ecobank Ghana, Toyota Ghana, Kasapreko, and Olam Ghana, among others. In all, 42 corporate entities and individuals were awarded. For Joy Business, Ebenezer Sabute.
All right, so we want to congratulate all award winners at this year's edition of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana. And on that note, to wrap up this edition of the Marketplace, you can always keep interactive with us by tweeting at Joy Business GH is our handle, and on Facebook, we are on Joy Business. For more business news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We have a naked day tomorrow for more interesting developments on the world of business. Good afternoon.